If your revenue's been stuck for the past 6 months, listen up because this pattern break will not only level up your revenue, it will change how you see sales and revenue as a founder. I know this because I taught this to my 7 to 9 figure clients and it works. But this is actually what elite martial artists understand about winning that most founders don't. The way you win is by understanding the pattern and then breaking it. In other words, if you want to boost sales, understand the pattern of how your clients buy and then break it. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 pattern breaks that I shared with my 7 to 9 figure clients and why it led to a direct boost in sales. We're gonna go from the easiest to implement to the one that will have the highest ROI for your business. And we're gonna actually talk about a bonus that will 10x the first pattern break. My name is Bogdan, and in my 20s, I helped my dad go from burnout to scaling and successfully selling his business. I wrote the book on the Leadership Plus martial arts principles that take you to the top 0.01% without ever sacrificing your freedom. And today I work with overwhelmed, burned out founders who have built a prison instead of an actual business, a machine that gives them freedom, fun, and finance. I help them get better results with a lot less effort without breaking what works and without sacrificing their freedom. I hope you're excited because this video is going to be a gem, and it's likely that one of these patterns, at least one of these pattern interrupts, is something that you haven't heard of or is definitely something that you haven't tried, especially if your revenue has been stuck for a while now. Let's start with the first one, tailor. Why do people get tailor-made suits? Because it feels perfect for you. So what is the pattern for clients? When they get on a sales call with your team, they expect, to be asked a bunch of questions and then pitched and their objections handled, so on and so forth. If you are a service, I'm going to give you 2 examples of this, and you can extrapolate this to your own business and see how powerful this actually is. If you're an agency running ads for clients, optimizing their funnels, what if at the start of the sales call, you showed a potential client a new website, a new landing page, a new ad that you just made, a video sales letter, like a 60-second video sales letter, or like the copy that they actually needed to shift. You don't send it to them. You just show them this resource that you prepared, you made for them, tailor-made for them. With AI, it just takes you a few minutes, but they will remember you forever. It's likely that nobody in your industry does that. Secondly, this Romanian entrepreneur was sharing his experience in an Italian hotel. He went to the sauna, sauna was looking great. He wasn't expecting much, but what surprised him and what turned him from being a client to a marketer for that hotel was an experience that he could never predict. They had a live opera singer in the sauna. Can you imagine that? You're sitting there, like after your workout, you're chilling, and this guy walks, I'm not sure if he walked into the actual sauna or it was outside the sauna where he was singing. I don't know. But the fact is, the guy was singing opera live. He told all of his friends about this unique hotel. He made content online. That's how I found out about this hotel, talking about how unique this experience was. When you understand specifically what your clients expect, and then you can give them something that is unexpected but so qualitative, so different, they will not only buy, they will market for you. This is number 1, the easiest to implement. Brainstorm with your team what that could be for you, because this will be a huge game changer for you. The second pattern interrupt, and this is something that I talk about in my book, specifically in the freedom chapter. And by the way, you can get the freedom chapter from my book for free. as a PDF. It's, I don't know how many pages, like 10. It's about a 5 to 10 minute read, but this will lay the foundation to actually building a business that gives you freedom, fun, and finance. Exceptionally powerful information. And I talk about this element in the freedom chapter a lot more extensively. I highly recommend you get it through the link below in the description. Kings and queens use emissaries. I was talking to this agency owner who was handling the marketing for the biggest names in the personal development industry. But his problem was that despite being a big name, despite having a team, he was the one doing all the selling. He had built a personal brand and everybody just wanted to talk to him. And he knew that that wasn't scalable. Instead of working above the business, he would not just only get on client sales calls, he would also solve problems for clients. That is not, you cannot run a business like that. You cannot sell the business like that. And you might say, hey, but I don't want to sell the business. No problem. If you actually want to have freedom, then you have to ask yourself the question, can the business run without me? And that is the prerequisite to selling any business. So having the mindset of, okay, what would I change if I were to sell the business this quarter? Shifts your mindset. So what do I mean when I say kings and queens use emissaries? This is the third person effect. This is something third person effect. If you are, like my client, still the one doing all the selling, or if you're still selling when it comes to big clients, you might really want to look into this because it will save you 80% of your time, of the time you spend on sales calls. And it will make the close effortlessly. Your close percentage will go up. Here's how it works, right? Imagine you have these two kings. And every time they need to talk to each other and strike a deal, they have to see each other every single time. That would be a huge waste of time, right? So what do kings do? They send emissaries to talk to each other, to discuss, and then come back with the information. They don't waste time doing that. So here's how this specifically works in a sales call. You can still have your personal brand, right? As the CEO, as the founder. That's totally fine. But why does Patek Philippe, why is it that their clients are not allowed to buy any watch they want? Obviously, branding, sales tactic, great. But what I'm really asking is, why is it that they do not flinch and they do not compromise the standard for anyone? Because to them, the client is not necessarily always right, in the sense that my castle, my rules. When you come from that approach, clients will respect you more. They will respect your brand more. So instead of having a big client just get on the call with you directly and you selling to them, they need to get on the call with one of your team members, your head of sales, or a closer, or whatever. The closer needs to ask them qualifying questions, warm them up for the sale, do 80% of the work that you would be doing normally in a sales call. And if they qualify, if they're right, and this is how it needs to be framed from the beginning, like, hey, look, I'm going to ask you a few questions, see, what the situation is like, maybe even have this prepared for them. Exceptionally powerful, right? Again, you don't need to send it to them. You send it to them when they become a client. But just the fact that you had that prepared, super powerful, right? Leaves a huge impression. And they say, hey, I just want to get a feel of what the situation is like. If we're going to be a good fit, you're also going to have a conversation with our founder. We're going to schedule a second call, right? And we'll take it from there. Is that fair, Mr. Client? They're going to invariably say yes. The third person effect comes in. I mentioned I learned this from when I was studying hotel management. When you have a disgruntled guest and they demand to speak to the manager, what we would often do is we would call a colleague from the back. The guest would immediately assume that that's the manager. They would immediately calm down, and the colleague would tell them what they already heard. But the client was completely different. The client was so much more receptive to the information. So even if your closer gives them some specific information about the quality of the product, the service, or the company, when you come in the second call and you do 20% of the work and you say the exact same thing the closer said, it becomes massively, exponentially more valuable because the client is now so much more open to receiving the same exact information. It moves from being some sort of information to being fact because of the third person effect. Super, super, super powerful. When you start implementing that, you have so much more authority than getting on every single goddamn sales call. Right? It's like, okay, this person really respects their time. They don't spend time unless it's with somebody who's serious about doing business. Very powerful. And number 3, and this is going to be the highest return on investment for you, and it's likely that this is the reason why your revenue has been stuck for a while now. When I started working with my 9-figure client, he had a version of this, right? He believed that if he tried to expand this behemoth of a company, he would invariably make a mistake that would cost him millions, and he wasn't about to put his family through the financial stress of, solving his business challenges and stuff like that. Now, the reason why that was happening was obviously because there was something inside of him that was not letting him. He was more in a state of fear, of scarcity, of, oh my God, I hope I don't make a mistake. He was playing defense rather than going on the offense. And we know, if you're watching this, you know that that is always going to be a losing game because your competition is playing offense. In martial arts, the best defense is offense. You're never going to be able to react faster than your opponent's action if I'm only defending. Right? They've started the action and I'm here. Oh my God, what are they going to do? You will always lose. And it has to do with imposter syndrome, but more specifically with your identity. In one conversation, I helped my client unlock the identity that would double his 9-figure business. The identity that would test out new products, new services, that would go out and hire heads of departments that were smarter than my client, that would make an exponential difference in his company. He knew about that. But the reason why he couldn't implement these ideas, the reason why he was keeping his company stuck, was because of his identity. He had a 9-figure identity, and he was dealing with imposter syndrome in terms of transitioning to a 10-figure identity. Yes? This is a real reason why founders keep their business stuck. It's not a strategic problem. You already know, like if I were to put a gun to your head and say, hey, give me 3 ways to double your business, you would immediately come with like 1, 2, 3. You already know that. But the reason why you're not implementing them is because you haven't shifted your identity first. You don't see yourself as this next level founder first. And that's really the bulk of my work. I have a holistic approach to tackling this situation. Now, I want to give you a bonus that will 10x the initial step, the tailor-made solution. I call it the $10,000 hamburger. There's a restaurant, I forget the name, but there's a restaurant that sells a $10,000 hamburger and says, hey, would you like our exclusive $10,000 hamburger? And the clients are like, I don't know, not today. But then they look at the menu and see similar hamburgers, similar burgers that are actually a bit more expensive than normal hamburgers, but because they had the $10,000 pitch first, all of a sudden, those burgers that are a lot more expensive than normal ones, they feel like a deal. They feel like a steal. It's a psychological effect. And I know you know about this, but most founders actually completely overlook this specific technique. So what would be a service, a product that you could position as 10 times more expensive than your best-selling product or service, that would be similar but have some sort of exclusivity to it? They would be like, hey, we actually have this option that, maybe you're selling a $50,000 service. What could be a $500K service that you could offer people in the sales call? Just tell them about it. And it's like, hey, we're actually doing this as well. And they're like, yeah, this sounds really, really interesting, but I do want to get to know your company a bit more, whatever excuses they come up with in the sales call. And we'll talk about it later. Some of them might actually buy that, by the way. Some of them might actually prefer the $500K solution. Some people do buy $10,000 burgers because they want the Instagram photo. They want the Instagram reel to brag about doing that on the internet. But then all of a sudden, for the rest, when you share your $50K solution, it feels cheap. It feels like a huge deal. Ask yourself, are you implementing this? Because a lot of founders get into the weeds of things despite having so much information. They're putting out so many fires. They don't really implement the things that move the needle forward for their business. I was talking to a Romanian copywriting business the other day about this, and they had like a one-on-one mentorship program, right, with the founders, and it was like twice the normal program that they were selling. I said, dude, look, this needs to be at least 10 times more expensive. It will make the sale so much easier. Now, don't start implementing all of these at the same time. Choose one, test it out, take a snapshot of the business right now, and measure the progress, measure the difference in ROI. After you've established, you've systemized the first one, then do the next. Give yourself 15, 30 minutes a day in the morning before you start putting out fires, before you check your Slack, your phone, whatever, to just think about how to implement and optimize one of these. Because even the single one, shifting one single thing will make a huge difference in your revenue, just like it did for my clients. And your next step after watching this video is watching this in-depth training where I share with you how talented self-made founders break the ceiling without burning out, without breaking what works. I'm sharing my unique yin-yang system. I'm laughing because I know it sounds funny, but it really works. It's super powerful. And the reason why this video is unlisted on YouTube is because this is not for the general population. This is specifically, exclusively for founders who are serious about building a business that gives them freedom, fun, and finance instead of a high-paying job. Most founders are addicted to the prison they've built, but I'd say it's time to break out. Check out this video.